Now, where else could you find out about whaling in Oklahoma except right here? We're the only ones that'll tell you the truth. Nobody else in town will do that. Governor issued a proclamation calling for Christians to pray for the oil industry. I heard that, and I got studying about it, and I thought, you know, from all I've heard, God's a pretty busy fella. I don't know if he has time to, waste on frivolous requests. And then, a few days later, she pulled that one and issued a new one, this time asking for people of all faiths to pray for the oil industry. Not for the hungry or the homeless or the schools, but for the oil industry. Now, the question is, gentlemen, first of all, did she step on her necktie when she asked just Christians to pray?
Someone in her office did that was writing proclamations. Yes.
Yeah. I think it was pretty innocent, but I tell you, I think we should pray all the time. That's how I read the Bible, and that's how I feel about things.
Well, nobody's arguing that.
Right.
No, I think what we're arguing here is, what are we praying for? Do we make deals with God? I mean, this you can get into some heavyweight discussions here with politicians and praying, and you can do it quickly. And men and women much more intelligent than I am in terms of the Bible could walk all over me saying, no, that's not what you do. My question is, first of all, should we be praying for the oil industry? Second, should it have been just Christians? And what happened there?
Well, I think the answer to your first question is, like you said, you're always stepping into a potential minefield when you pray for, as a government body, you put out a proclamation encouraging people to pray for a certain entity, whether it be oil and gas or farmers. I think that's problematic to begin with. And as far as I agree with John, I think it was an innocent mistake to use just Christians, to write it out just Christians first. But I also was struck by how there's a little something tone deaf about that. I mean, in this day and age, in the world we live in, it would seem, and I understand where we're sitting here in Oklahoma, but this day and age, it's a pretty pluralistic society, and for someone to just limit it to Christians, I just think, again, nothing malicious intended. I just was struck by how that could have gotten out.
It felt, to me, a little uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I belong to a religious organization, a church.
Right.
I go on occasion, and they all go, look who came. My family's, of course, they're regular. But at the same time, I'm thinking, something made me uncomfortable about that. It was like, tell you what, God, if you'll do this for me, I'll do that for you.
I didn't take it that way at all.
Well, it's not the first time it's happened either,
I was a little surprised that it took so long to recall it and add the religious diversity to it. But I didn't take it as making a deal with God, but I can see where some people would.
Well, just thought I'd give it a little air room here. Homeland Security has said no to the state's request for more time to implement the Federal Real ID Act. Now, the boys and girls in the legislature thought they could skirt around that. What's going to happen? I have my passport. I don't know about you guys.
I've got my passport.
I got my passport.
Now, help me with the timing of this, because wasn't there at one point they got an extension, and then
There have been several extensions.
There have been several extensions, and I think the latest round is that to go onto a military base or to
a federal
building, you have one deadline and then a later deadline to get on airplanes.
right.
But there are still, I think, 25 states, including New York, that are in the same boat as Oklahoma. So that kind of makes me think that there's going to be another extension.
Yeah, so I think there'll be something. I can't see them.
You mean you think the feds will turn around and reverse their decision?
Well, they have already.
I thought they said no to it, Charlie.
Well, everybody's been given extension after extension. So imagine if everybody in New York, they said you can't get on a plane without your passport, that would be a pretty big political problem.
I understand that. I'm talking about just the people of Oklahoma. Wouldn't it be nice if once our legislature would take the lead on something like this and act instead of react? I mean, it just seems to me like, I got my passport, sure, okay. What about the folks out there that don't have a passport?
What was the original reason that we didn't approve it? There was some,
For the not biogenics, but the biometrics.
Biometrics, basically the information that they wanted put on the card. And there was concerns that it would
And I think
create a
that
government
there was a
database,
bill
yeah.
in the last session that said, okay, we're going to give people an option of having when you renew your license in Oklahoma, you can have that biometric put on there. And so whenever this thing really kicks in, you'll be okay. Now I think, and I'm not sure what the status of that bill was.
it didn't pass. I think it died in
Okay.
committee. Yeah.
I understand what you're saying, Sam. I also think that the bigger picture, it's an interesting issue because TSA gets hit over the head anytime, something gets through. So, it's the old argument between the technology that they're obviously trying to make the airports more secure, but whether or not you're infringing on people's personal information is, it's always that tension between the two. I think beyond even what the legislature has chosen not to do, it's a broader question is whether it's appropriate to be gathering people's information. And it seems like more and more we're headed that way with the technology we're in. So while I may not have proposed the legislation, I can understand the underlying tension between people who want a secure system versus those who want to protect everyone's information.
See, I wonder about the federal courthouse at Tulsa. Am I going to have a passport to go in there and buy stamps?
Yes, you will.
I think you will, yeah.
That's not going to happen.
Right.
It's just going to force us all to use that internet thing.
You think? But then when it comes time to visit Grandma for Christmas, things are going to get
UPS.
really send her something UPS. That's awful, John. State Supreme Court has tossed yet another proposed abortion law, saying again this one violates our log rolling concerns. Is that really the issue here?
No, it's not the issue.
What is the issue?
They selectively throw out laws with it. They use log rolling when they like it, and when they like the law, they use log rolling. They don't use it when they do like the law. So this is a selective deal. There are the people in the state that feel like anytime we pass a law that restricts abortion, that's a bad reputation for Oklahoma. So they don't want to see any laws like that go into full effect, even though they're passed. All these laws have been passed by the House and the Senate, signed by the governor.
So you believe that the Supreme Court kind of is interpreting these different
Oh, absolutely. There's
initiatives
wiggle room
differently?
there. I mean, they can.
Yeah, right. There definitely is.
Yeah. I mean, you can look at a lot of different laws that are on the books and say, like the Blaine Amendment,
Right.
and you can say, well, you talk to 5 different attorneys or 5 different judges, and you get 5 different opinions.
Right.
So I think that there are people in the state that have a lot of influence that say, we don't want the reputation of being a pro-life state. So
Right.
they can pass all the laws they want to, but we're going to kill them in the Supreme Court.
Yeah, yeah.
Anything out of you, John? I mean, you're an
Nope,
icon.
I'm being quiet. I'll be quiet.
All right.
Well, I thought what was they were trying to accomplish with it was also very interesting. If I understood it right, they would require that young people was 14. Was it? What was the age limit that they were?
Somebody that was raped.
Yeah, but the idea was to be able to identify should a young person be
Yes, it's
raped.
a tissue sample.
It's a tissue sample. I just thought that was, I was struck by, whatever you think of the issue, I thought, boy, that's,
Well, it's interesting. The Senate Bill 1552, which passed easily in the House and the Senate, was vetoed by Mary Fallon, and that would have stripped the medical license of any doctor that performed an abortion. And people were really nervous about that one. So the governor, who has always said she's pro-life, vetoed that, which
Yeah.
that may be one of the reasons why she asked Christians to pray too.
You know, it was funny, just before she exercised her veto on that, I recall there were arguments being bandied about, and hand to God, I truly heard this, about 9-month abortions.
I don't think there is such
There's
a
no
thing,
such
is there?
animal.
Is there?
yeah.
And they were wanting to
Well, if
outlaw
the baby's late, it is, I guess.
Yeah.
a 9-month abortion. I'm thinking, really? Is that after the cesarean, or how are you going to work this out?
Well, I had a nephew who was 4 weeks late from his due date, so I guess that's what they're talking about. But it sounds like partial birth
That's one in
abortion.
how many million?
Pardon?
1 in how many million? the point is, there is no
Well, they just had the one.
realistic,
Right.
or normally, there's no 9-month. I mean,
Right, it's not, there's no normal
you know,
time.
unless
It's
you,
just-
now, well, of course, Oklahoma, you know, we could be going 10 months now. It's Oklahoma after all.
It's in the water.
Tulsa is part of a plan to reduce STD rates. About 2 months ago, there was an alarming article in the Tulsa World, and I'm sure all of you saw it, about the high numbers of STDs in Tulsa. It went on to point out it wasn't just Tulsa, it was Oklahoma City. It was in all points of the state where STDs are on the increase and climbing, even as we talk. And everybody's going, oh, whatever do we do? Well, what do we do? What should be done here to combat this?
Go to the health clinic.
I'm going to write you up for that, John.
I'm sorry.
Well, you know, one of the things that the Tulsa County Health Department is doing right now is if there's a couple of diseases that people come in and are diagnosed with, they are giving them extra doses to take back to people that they've had relations with.
Right.
You know, because there's so many people that fool around and have this stuff and they don't come in for treatment and they just keep infecting other people.
Is education the answer, or is that a discounted part of the equation anymore?
I don't think it's education. I think it's morality. I think our morality is slipping, and that people just feel like they have a license to have whatever sexual activity they have, and you know, there are drugs that will take care of the consequences. You know,
Yeah, I probably disagree there with Charlie. I think morality aside, whatever the issue is, STDs or whatever you're dealing with, I think the more information you have, the better you're going to be, regardless of what situation you're talking about. So,
well, how many people do you think don't? I mean, even teenagers, they don't know that they're risking disease when they do this stuff.
well, I don't think, I say this, I don't think a lot of teenagers think about it. And it
But
probably,
they know about it though, don't you know?
well, I don't know to what level they honestly appreciate the potential of those type of things. I'm not saying I don't know what goes on in a health class in high school anymore. It's been a long time, but I don't think it could hurt to educate those kids, young people, whether it's in the schools or at home, to know what the potential, pitfalls could be when you engage in sexual activity. You know, so I'm just saying, broadly speaking, if you are educated on an issue, I think you're going to, and better informed, you're going to be able to better
Make a
kind of
decision.
navigate your way. You know?
And I know some churches have actually done health clinics for teenagers and classes for teenagers in their youth groups.
It's almost like there's a generation out there hungry for knowledge. They know, but they don't really take it seriously. That can't happen to me.
Yeah,
is the
right.
attitude, you know?
But
Yeah.
that's always been the way with teenagers.
I don't remember.
Smoking.
All right, gentlemen, we've got
Driving
about a minute
fast.
and a half, and there's not enough time to do this, but I'm going to throw it out there anyway. I'm 73 years old, and I don't recall an election like this. I don't recall this much anger, this much of a division in this country, not to mention the state. I have never heard what I'm hearing now. Couple that with the fact that we had a major carrier in the Northeast that was hacked, and a lot of vote counting apparatus out there will be susceptible to that. Are we in trouble?
I don't think we are in Oklahoma. We may be in other states.
we've got
Our-
paper
Ours
ballots.
don't even, we have the paper ballots back up, and the voting machines don't connect to the internet.
But what about the rest of the country?
Well, I think, from what I'm Brett, I agree with John. Oklahoma, I think, is pretty safe. I think typically, I think it would be hard to do any kind of massive voter manipulation because each state handles its own voting system separately. And I think a lot of them, and I'm not an expert, I think a lot of them are off the grid, off the internet. So what I've been told by election officials is that the manipulation could come with voter registration information and things like that, not the actual ballots.
Yeah.
I think we're out of time, and I'm sorry.
We should stay with paper ballots.
All right. Hey, thank you all three.
Thanks,
Appreciate
Sam.
you coming in. You have to come back and do it again.
Okay, enjoyed it. Thank you.
All right, my friend. We're out of time. Thank you for being a part of it, and we'll see you next time.